Hey everyone, and welcome to my craft room. Thank you so much for being part of my day today. This is one of my pre-recorded videos for my August to December mini catalogue launch. Seems a little bit strange doing a launch in August, which I've probably mentioned, August catalogue launch in September, as I've probably already mentioned, but with delays in shipping, it seems it's probably just about as early as I could successfully plan something. This particular video, I'll be doing 2 cards featuring the Beauty of Tomorrow stamp set and its matching Beautiful Leaves dies. Together they're called the Beauty of Tomorrow bundle, and they actually come also in a suite with some of the beautiful designer series paper that you've got in to do a later card in your pack, plus the wonderful ephemera pack, which you've also got half a pack of that as your free gift in your card kit. And also I'm going to use the shimmer ribbon, which is also in the collection and is just so beautifully shiny as well. So we'll be using that for our cards as well. So a couple of cards. One of them is a fancy fold and one is a slimline. So something a little bit different there to your normal straight cards. Okay, so we're actually going to use the ephemera pack in one of them. So you've got everything you need in your leftovers from your card kit to make add to the card we're doing. And the other one is just a pure sort of stamping. So you get to use all, if you buy this bundle and make this card, you'd get to use all the stamps practically in the set. So it's really good to do a card that really shows the stamp set to its best. Best light. And we'll also be doing some masking, so that's a technique we'll be doing on one card, and we'll also be doing some blending with some blending brushes on the other one. So I'm going to get a fair bit of different sort of styles of card making in this particular video. Okay, so let's get started. Might actually do the fun fold one first with the ephemera pack. So this is the little card we're going to be making. I'm going to be making, you're going to be watching. It's actually a centre fold easel card, which I think it's quite lovely. I'll just bring it a little bit closer there. It uses the really nice tag out of the ephemera pack. I've used a little gold leaf there as well, but I'm not planning on using that on this particular card that I show you. I only popped that there because I had a glue smudge, and we use a couple of the stamps out of the set as well. So this little one sits up like that. It folds flat like that, so it just looks like a normal card, but it is quite special when it's up and on display. Okay, so don't worry too much about the measurements and instructions for these cards, and also the product links. I'm going to pop all of those onto our special little launch party group once the video goes up. But I'll just run you quickly through what we've got, so you can you can sort of rest and not to worry too much about it until the video goes up. So I have a 5.5 inch by 8 1/4 inch piece of soft suede cardstock. So that's what that is. So 8.5 by 5.5 by 8 3/4. I'm just checking that that's what that one is. Yep, 8 1/4 by 5.5. I have on the card front, I have cut inch wide strips from the edge to the score on the front. So these little arms here are 1 inch wide, and then on the center, the 3.5 inches that's left over, I've scored that at 2 inches. So pretty much exactly in half of that center panel scored like that, and that forms our little easel there, our little easel for our card to sit up on. So basically what we need to do is grab our 2 little arms that are flapping about like that, and we just need to glue them down. So grab some glue or some snail, whatever you happen to have around handy, and just basically glue those 2 little arms down. Just one on one side and one on the other side. So these videos are pre-recorded, as I've mentioned already, but I will be watching along with you on the day, at the moment at our party. I will be watching along, so if you have any questions or comments, please type them in and I will respond to them. As I say, I'm not just going to dump the videos and run. I am actually watching along. I just thought pre-recording the videos would take a little bit of stress out of the day and make sure that everything runs smoothly, time-wise especially. Okay, another thing that comes with the Blackberry Beauty Suite collection is this beautiful shimmer vellum. So it's a gold shimmer. I'm just hoping you can, yes, you can see that in the light. Gold shimmer vellum. It's absolutely beautiful, and you can do all sorts of things with it. I've been cutting, well, in your packs you've got some of it that's been cut into the leaf with the beautiful leaves dies, which you're going to be using in that card we talked about later in the day. But this case I'm actually going to use it as a layer for my card. So I'm actually popping that over the I'm going to pick the right adhesive for this, over the layer of the arms that we've just stuck down of our soft suede cardstock. So I'm going to use double-sided tape to stick that down, only because with glue it tends to take a while to set with the shiny vellum surface, and it'll move around a bit, and I don't want this moving around and moving and then sort of drying in the wrong position, which would be very bad. Only downside is that you don't have the wriggle time that you would normally have with our wonderful multi-purpose glue. So pop those down. I would use snail, but my snail's just as organised as I was this morning. My snail's disappeared, so I can't quite see where it's got to. So I'll use double-sided, which I had here anyway. Now the thing is that we're going to be putting another layer on top of this, so you're not actually going to see too much past the outside 1/16 of an inch, so that's fine. Almost seems a shame to cover it over, but it just adds that little bit of extra bling to, which is really what is really quite a simple card, really. I think of it as simple and elegant. Okay, there we are. So we've got that sort of there on our side. It's not usually a colour I have used a lot of, the soft suede, but when I saw the combo in a similar card, I thought, no, I definitely have to give that a go. What else we're going to do is we're going to grab another piece of the shimmer vellum. So this one is the same length as the other two, but I think it's about 3. That gap in there is 3.5, so I think it's about 3 3/8. But as I say, I'll put all the measurements in the group later. And I've got a piece of Night of Navy cardstock here, and I've actually popped this one through the tailored Tasteful Textures embossing folder. Not, you can probably tell in the light, but just to take a little bit of the shininess off that cardstock. So what I'm going to do is just basically, again with double-sided tape because it's embossed, pop that straight over the layer of the shimmer vellum. So this is sort of nice in a way, because when this card is sitting up, you don't actually see a solid layer behind the Night of Navy. You sort of see the sort of translucent sort of prettiness of the vellum. Gives it sort of a non-distinct edge, which is really nice. So I've got that there. Make sure I kept my shiny side up. It's quite obvious which side is the shiny side, because the other one is like really flat and doesn't have the shimmer. So I'm going to just pop that there, being very careful because I'm using double-sided tape. And there we are. So we have the shimmer. Whether my focus on that, we have the shimmer behind the Night of Navy. Then what I'm going to do is pop that little combination together onto the front facing sort of easel part of our card. So just this part here, it will line up with the bottom half of your little shimmer Night of Navy combo that you've got it there. So I'm going to use glue on this, and I'm just going to have to be really, really careful that it stays stuck. Don't go right up to the edge of, well, I'm not going right up to the edge of the card with my glue because I've left a tiny 1/8 of an inch sort of gap around there like that. Okay, so that is basically the easel part of our easel card, all sort of ready. So that's sort of the card base part pretty much finished. Now the fun comes on where we can get our blending brushes out. Okay, so I've got the tag from the ephemera pack, which is a really nice big white tag. I've also got a piece of white cardstock. Now I've cut this to, and I've got to remind myself, I think 4 inches wide and about 5 inches long. Yeah, so 4 by 5. I'm going to have to trim it down, but I'm going to get my Misty Moonlight ink and my special blue blending brush. I actually have a blending brush for every sort of colour group. I find it easier to, like I keep my blues and my greens and I do my reds, and it just means that they don't sort of cross-contaminate, even though I do, of course, clean them quite thoroughly. It sort of doesn't, they don't sort of, you don't spread the colours around, I suppose. Anyway, okay, so this is my blue one, as you can see, because I've labelled it on the back. I've got my my Misty Moonlight, Misty Moonlight ink, and I'm going to put a little bit of ink on that. Now I only want the slightest blush of colour, so I'm going to sort of get that off on my cardstock first and then bring it in. So what I want is I'm going to do this whole piece of cardstock sort of quite dark in the corners and the sides, and then sort of disappearing to basically nothing sort of in the diagonal of the centre. And then I'll do the same coming in from the other way. I do want some colour in the centre. I don't want it to be stark, but I also don't want it to be as dark as the outsides. I'm going to do the same, get rid of a lot of it onto my paper and then bring it in again. Okay. Okay, so that's pretty much the effect that I'm after there. Hopefully you can see that it's sort of darkish at the two corners and then sort of merges to a lot softer in the middle. Okay, and then sort of merges back out again. So this piece of card, now that we've blended it, is basically going to be the decoration for the base of our easel, so for this area here. So I'm going to cut the two side pieces. So these two side pieces where it's dark are going to pop over the edges. So I'm going to have to trim them down to fit slightly smaller than our shimmer layer. And then the rest of it is going to be trimmed just a tiny bit to be in the middle. Okay, so I know that the 1 inch side then down to 7/8, so this one's going to have to be 3/4 of an inch wide. I'm just going to take that straight from the edge, and then I may have to trim it down to, so what's that, 4 down to 3 7/8, so it fits pretty much perfectly on that side. And I'll turn it around and take another 3/4 of an inch off the other edge, and also trim that down to 3 7/8. Just keep bringing my scoring blade in and wondering why it's not cutting. So that's going to go on that side, and the middle one is going to have to be scored down to 4 inches. Oh, that way. Phew, I thought for a horrible moment I've taken it off the wrong sides, but I hadn't. That's okay. It's going to have to be scored down to 3.5, 3 3/8. By 4, or just under 4. Is that the right length for there? Yeah, so it's the right length. It just needed to be a little bit skinnier, and I've done that right. So that's going to sit in the middle there. I'll just bring it down so you can see. So it's going to sit in the middle there. Okay, so we'll get rid of the trimmer. Okay, so while we've got our brush out, we're going to also do this very similar thing to our little tag here. So, but it's going to be even paler than it was on the card itself. So I may actually not even put any more ink on it. Just going to come in top corners, just over where that beautiful gold embossed flowers are, and just give it the faintest hint of the night of misty moonlight, night of navy, no, misty moonlight. Don't know that I've got enough on there. I may have to do a tiny bit more ink. Oh no, that seems all right. Okay, so that basically gives that beautiful gold embossing, stands out even more against the blue than I think it does against the white. Okay, I'll pop that one away, and I'll make sure I wash my brush next time when I'm finished. Okay, so we've got both of those. Right, so what we need to do, we grab our two little skinny pieces, our two little side pieces. I'm going to grab my Night of Navy ink, which I did have here somewhere because I was so organised. Here it is, my Night of Navy ink. And one of the stamps from the stamp set is this really nice sort of ferny, no, it's not ferns, it's sort of like, it's branches with leaves and sort of buds on the end. I'm just going to pop this into the Night of Navy ink, and I'm going to decorate, just a little bit of decoration on our two side pieces. So it's just obviously going to be stamping on a surface that you don't mind getting inky, as I always say. Just going to give the sort of feel of those leaves, I suppose, in a sort of a way, just coming in off the edge. Okay, so there we are. That's all we need, just a little bit of a highlight there. So we might as well put them on now, are going to go on either side of our easel, just there and there. I might use my glue. As I say, I'm going to have to be careful because it will move around. And I remember when I was designing the original card, I thought I had it and I came back and looked at it, and it managed to move itself. So you do have to be really careful when you're trying to glue anything to vellum, which, as I say, is usually why I use snail or double-sided tape. There we are. So I'm just going to try very hard not to move those now until they dry on. But aren't they nice? Aren't they sweet on that either side of that? Okay. Now we have our little tag, and while I've got my Night of Navy ink open, I'm going to just quickly use the Some People Are Just Likeable stamp, and this is where I had issues with my splodge the first time, but I'll explain to you what I did wrong as we go. So I'm going to, obviously this stamp is too long to fit onto our little tag. Our tag is only so wide, and the stamp itself is so long. So what I'm going to do is use some masking tape. You can use washi tape or whatever you use in the craft room, and cover over half of the sentiment each time, a different half, and then just stamp half at a time. So I'm going to do the Some People on its own. So basically with my tape, I'm just going to try and work out which is the Some People. So I'm lining that up to where the Some People ends, and the rest of the sentiment begins. So just covering that over, just bringing it in with a little bit of ink, inking it up normally. Then you have to remember to take that piece of the masking tape off and throw it away, just so you don't tempt yourself later. And then you can stamp your Some People. That was the issue I had when I made a splodge. I forgot to take the masking tape off, and I ended up with a masking tape splodgy sort of mess, which I covered with a gold thing, a gold set of leaves, which isn't too bad. If you're going to cover it with anything, it should be gold. So same thing in reverse. I'm going to cover this time cover the Some People right up to the next word. Here we are. And I'll ink that up. Remove the masking tape and get rid of it. And then bring it back in and stamp the rest of the sentiment on the second line. And that's a fairly standard technique if you ever want to split sentiments like that. You can actually also, I suppose, if you were doing the sentiments on a separate piece of cardstock, you could just cut them, stamp it at once and then cut the sentiment in half. But when we're stamping straight onto cardstock like that, the masking tape technique is quite good. So there we are. We have our sentiment over 2 lines, so it fits onto our very pretty little gift tag. Now I'm going to use the ribbon to give the gift tag a little sort of little what would you call it? A little tag, a little whatever. Just a little bit of detail, really. So I'm going to use the, as I mentioned, the gold shimmer ribbon. Now the gold shimmer ribbon is quite thick, and the hole in our little gift tag is quite small. So what I have done to save not ripping the tag is I've grabbed my old favourite, had it since primary school, hole punch. I don't think any kids today would know what a hole punch was for, to be honest, and just make that hole a wee bit bigger, just so that I can pop my ribbon through without without destroying it. Then I'm going to bring the ribbon through, fold the ribbon in half and bring it through back to front, from the back to the front, and then feed the two ends back forwards through the loop that you've created. Now be very careful when you're pulling that tight, because, as I say, it is quite a thick ribbon. Excuse me. And you could rip your cardstock if you're not very, very gentle. Okay, I might not force that anymore. There we are. So I'm just going to trim that down so it's not quite as long, and I'm going to give it a little bannered ends. There we are. Okay, so there we have a little gift tag with a little sort of piece of beautiful ribbon on the end there. Sorry if I'd gone too high then. I didn't been watching my screen that closely. So there we are. So I've got my hole slightly bigger and my ribbon is fed through that hole. So all we're going to do now is basically glue, or actually I might this time put it on dimensionals. I glued the first one and I wasn't really happy with the way it looked, because obviously there's a bit of clump of ribbon here and it didn't sort of sit flat, completely flat. So if I dimension it up, it'll sit a little bit. It won't bulge where the ribbon is. Okay, so I'll pop that just in the middle of there, and I haven't had to cover an ink splodge with an extra leaf, which is good this time. There, yeah. There, just like that. Okay, so we can finish the base of our what's the word, easel now, just by putting our last piece of white sponged cardstock in the bottom. I also am going to grab, I have another little piece of white cardstock here somewhere, and I'm going to make myself a little foot for the easel. As you know, when you do an easel card, you have to have something that stops it from falling forwards, because otherwise it's not an easel card if it doesn't sit up. It's just a card. So I'm going to get my Night of Navy again. I've got this cute little bird. He is so cute. Cute little bird in Night of Navy. And I'm going to die cut him. So I'm just stamp him in the Night of Navy. The detail of the stamp set is absolutely amazing. Just every single little feather and every leaf is just so clear. It's just one of those very special stamp sets. I'm going to grab my dies, which are here, and I'm going to cut out my little bird, wherever his die is there. Okay, so bear with me. I'll just disappear to my cut and emboss machine. I don't usually bring it into screen because there's enough mess on my desk as it is. Everything wobbles about. Not as bad as it used to in the bad old days before my husband fixed my beautiful table, but it still does wobble a bit. So I'll just bear with me. I'm just turning the handle and getting that little bird. There it is. Isn't he cute? It's just so lovely. Okay, so I'm going to pop the bird on some dimensionals, and he's going to be the stopper for our easel card. So just work out where you want your bird. I mean, the further back you have him, your easel will sit up really high. But if you want your easel to sit down a little bit lower, you can bring him a little bit forward. So just pop some dimensionals on the back. Probably would be better with mini dimensionals because he's quite delicate. And I am going to have to put a little bit on his tail because I don't want his tail just to wobble free and loose. I need a nice skinny piece. So I'm just going to cut some of these edges. Never waste your edges for his little skinny tail. As I say, a mini dimensional would be appropriate also. Or just cut a big one in half. Okay, so I'm going to have him sort of sweeping down like that with his tail in the air and his wings across like that. I'm going to pop it about, that's probably about an inch. His bottom wing is probably 1.25 inches from the bottom of the card, and that will stop he is now my little foot for my stop. Now, the second part of this sentiment is quite cute. You've got some people are just likeable. Oh, I haven't glued that down yet. I'll glue that down now. And then we're going to use the second part of it on this base here, which is you're one of those people. It's really sweet. So this is really any occasion card, I suppose, just because. Just try and get that centre there. It's a bit hard to tell with the soft suede on soft suede. It's a bit hard to tell where one bit ends and one begins. So there we are. Okay, so you're one of those people. Keep it consistent and use the Night of Navy. And just pop the second half of the sentiment just underneath our little bird there. There we are, perfect. Okay, so if you're writing on this card, you could write up above our little bird there, or of course you could pop a white sentiment box or something, or just a piece of white cardstock up there and write on there if you didn't want to write on the base. But there we are. So there is our first centre easel card, this one would be called. Oh, forgot something very important, the bling. So these are my gilded gems. They are tend to be my go-to for gold embellishments. So I'm just going to grab a medium-sized one and just pop it just on the front. I don't think we need too many. I don't think we definitely need 3. I think 1's probably enough. Just on the front there, just as a little highlight of bling. Okay, so there we are. Now that one is finished. So that's our little centre easel fold card. Yeah, so we've used a few techniques there, some blends and some masking tape stamping. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so card number 2 that I'm going to do for you today with the suite, the Blackberry Beauty suite, which I should mention is in the current mini catalogue, which is the reason we're all here. So if you're wondering where it is, just check your mini catalogue or online, and that's there. So that's our first one. Let's have a look at our second one. Just have a little bit of a tidy up so I don't cause issues. How are we going for time? 31 minutes. That's good. Okay, so this second card is just all stamping. Yeah, it's just, stamping in with the masking technique. Okay, so it's a slimline card, which is really unusual, and I'm quite liking them. Slimline card. It's 8 1/4. Where is it? 8 1/4. Yes, 8 1/4 inches long. It fits in, if you're worrying about envelopes and you don't have an envelope maker that you can use, it fits in a normal legal sized envelope that you might get at the supermarket or at the gift store. So it fits in one of those. As I say, if you have an envelope maker, you could make it yourself. I'm using the Blackberry Bliss, obviously it's a bit hard to tell, it looks really dark here. With a suite called Blackberry Beauty, you have to use your Blackberry Bliss. And I've got a layer of, which is unusual again, I've gone for quite unusual colours for me, a layer of cinnamon cider underneath. And then I've masked these leaves so that I can put the really pretty text. Oh, somebody's messaged me. So I can use the pretty text from the stamp set as the background to our pretty leaves. Okay, so I'm recording this on Sunday, which is Father's Day, and there's messages flying backwards and forwards from the family. Okay, so let's get started with this one. We're going to get both these cards finished in an hour, so let's see how we go. That's how it fits the format of our day today. So as I say, I've got a card base in Blackberry Beauty. The colour comes out a bit better there. It's 8 1/4 long and 7 inches wide, and it's been scored at 3 1/2. So we basically get a 3 1/2 by 8 1/4 inch card base. Then I've got a 1/4 inch smaller piece of the cinnamon cider. As I say, I will pop all the details and all the links and all the measurements into the group after the video goes up, so that's there. Then we've got a correspondingly smaller piece of basic white. And then I have the same for the inside. So the inside's going to mimic the outside as far as the layers is concerned. And then I have a 1 inch, no, 3/4 inch, I think it is. No, I'm wrong again. 5/8 inch wide piece of cinnamon cider and a 1/2 inch wide piece of white. And that's going to be our sentiment that goes across the middle, so diagonally like that when we get that far. Okay, the colours I'm going to be using to stamp are Crumb Cake, which is the background. So I'm going to stamp that off once, so 2nd generation Crumb Cake. Then I'm going to use Early Espresso for one of the flowers or one of the leaves, and Cinnamon Cider itself for the other one. There's a bit of a story about Early Espresso. The reason I'm using that, I really did want to use Blackberry Bliss, but my Blackberry Bliss stamp pad is a little bit dry, and it's the one colour I don't have a refill. So I'd ordered the refill, but of course at the moment things are so slow, I haven't actually received it yet. Okay, so we're going to use post-it note masks in this particular one. That's one I've got prepared already. I thought I'd show you how to do the other one. So I've got my little pad of post-it notes here, and then just in any colour, it doesn't matter too much, but I've got my Early Espresso close. Stamp the image that you want to mask onto the post-it note. Now make sure you get a fair bit of it on the sticky part of the post-it note. So basically it will stick to your what's the word? Stick to your cardstock and mask it properly. Okay, so there we are. So I'm going to rip that off and grab your scissors, and then you basically just fussy cut that image out. Now, you can go as close or as distant as you want. Obviously, the closer you go, the more, what's the word? The more precise your mask will be. If you don't worry too much about precision of the mask, you can actually just, because there's a die for this one, you could just die cut it, but then you'd have the white, quite a large white gap around each of your images when you mask it. But I'm going sort of halfway here because I don't want to spend all my Father's Day cutting out masks and bore you to death with that. I mean, there's some parts you could go right down into the centre of that, but I think it would probably make your mask a little bit flimsy, and you still need to have it fairly sturdy to move it around the card. So I'm only going to do one, so it means I'm going to be moving it every time I want to stamp a different part of the image. Nearly there. Did actually make both of these. I couldn't find this one, so I thought it was a good chance to show you. So you've probably seen me masking things before. It seems to be one of my favourite techniques. Now look, it really, if you're making this card, it really wouldn't be the end of the world if you just stamped straight over the images, but I think the mask makes it that little bit special because you can actually see that the wording sort of disappears behind the mask, which is quite good. All right, so what we might do to our big image first, the same image that we used on our this big one that we used on our first card. I'm going to do that in the cinnamon cider. I'm just going to do these first, just move everything out of the way so I don't make a horrible mess. Okay, so we're going to stamp that in our cinnamon cider, and I'm just going to pop them. So I'm stamping the images first, you'll notice that, and then I'll bring in the masks second. And print that sort of just up the middle of our card, just like that. Okay, so that's the one we want there. Then I'm going to bring in my early espresso, which, as I said, should be Blackberry Bliss, but my Blackberry Bliss died on me. I'm going to try and use it for the sentiment, but it may not work too well. So I'm going to bring in this little one and just around the edges. The thing is, my early espresso ink pad is very, very juicy, so the images are very this particular image is particularly lumpy. Not lumpy, but yeah, it's the details a little bit undefined. Okay, so I'm just bringing that in those 4 little spots around the edge. It's one extreme to another. My Blackberry Beauty was dry, but my early espresso was juicy. Okay, so now we'll bring in our lovely script, and to be honest, I haven't read it. The changing of leaves reminds us that the new wonders are just around the corner. Oh, how nice. That is very nice, especially at the moment. We all need a little bit of wonder around the corner. Okay, so I'm going to, as I say, bring this one in. It's going to be stamped off first, and I'm going to mask our little images so that they do not get any ink on them. Nearly forgot that then. That probably was a bit of a disaster. So hopefully this one, because it's been used before, will cooperate. And this one's nice and new. So just going to do the top first and then move the masks down and continue my way down. So it doesn't quite fit, one stamping doesn't quite fit the across the thing, so it's going to have to be a couple wide, so to speak. So there we are. Stamp on, stamp off. There, stamp on, stamp off, and just fill that gap there. Okay, so it's not that we're going to be expecting anyone to be able to read our images. It's just that we would, you know, we would like to treat them like an atmospheric sort of background. So I'm just going to move this mask down. Doesn't want to stay. And then pop another one in there. Move this one down to here. This one over to here. Now, if you didn't want to bother moving, of course, you just make yourself multiple masks and you can have them all masked at the same time if that's what you want to do. But I'm quite happy to move them and not use that many post-it notes. Oh, that one's going to have to go back over there, isn't it? Because I'm going to have to stamp further down. So maybe two masks might have been better. That's okay. Move it for our last one down here. Here we are. So just get rid of our masks. And that's our stamping done, you see. So we can see that the image of the script from our little background stamp is not in between. It's not sort of merged into the actual images themselves, and so the images are quite distinct and clear, which is what we're after. Okay, so we'll layer this up. So this one is going to go, as I mentioned, straight onto our cinnamon cider. I do have a, what's that one? Not that one. I do have a snail here. We might use our stamp and seal. So straight onto our cinnamon cider. And then cinnamon cider and the whole kit and caboodle onto the front of our card base. There we are. Okay. Oh, yeah. Now we're going to do, probably should have done this in a different order. I probably should have done it before I sent it onto the card base, but I can cut it. I'm going to pop this little strip of white onto my little strip of, what's the word, cinnamon cider. And this is where our sentiment is going to go. Again, I'm going to use the Some People Are Just, where is it? Was it? Some People Are Just Likeable. I won't bother trying to use my Blackberry Beauty since it's dry. I'll use this, hopefully the early espresso will behave itself and not be too juicy. So I'm going to pop that on there. You've got a particularly juicy stamp ink pad, just make sure you just stamp straight up and down and don't wobble at all. I know it's a good rule all the time, but particularly if you've got a juicy stamp set, basically if you wobble it too much, you'll get all the extra ink off. Now that's going to sit across the side there, and as I mentioned, I probably should have put it on first because I'm going to trim the edges, but I forgot that in my first one, so I forgot it here as well. But that's okay. I can trim it once it's on with a pair of scissors. So I'm just going to pop some dimensionals on and hope that I put them in the right positions. Yep. Pop that straight on and then trim it straight to the edge with my scissors. So I'll pop that sort of central long ways. Again, it's such a long sentiment, you couldn't put it straight because it would sort of merge off the edges too far. Okay, so we'll go like that. I'll bring in my scissors and trim that off in line with the cinnamon cider layer. Yeah. My little guillotine would be much better if I hadn't already attached the layer. There we are. It's not too bad. Okay, so there we are. So that's, oh, sorry, I moved up. That's the front of our card all done there. So I'm going to pop some rhinestones on, but we'll layer up the inside first as well. So I'm going to put the little second stamp sentiment on the inside as well, just to continue the sentiment through. It's a bit crooked. It's very crooked. Oh no. As I said, you take your chances when you use the snail, because there's no wriggle room, no wriggle time. So you have to get it off straight away. There's no time to waste, and sometimes even then it rips, but I think I've got away with it. Don't tell anybody I made that boo-boo. Okay, so you're one of those people. Again, I'm going to use my early espresso. Check my time, 48 minutes, perfect. So you'll get a chance now to pop off and have a cup of coffee or whatever, do what you need to do, put your washing on from the end of this video to the top of the next hour, in which case I'll be back. And I'm assuming, unless I change, this will be the first recorded, so the middle of the day will be another live recording and another prize draw. So good luck on that with everyone who's participated. So I've popped "You're one of those people" in there. You could probably bring the little bird in as well. Where's he? He's so cute. I want to use him all the time. Here he is. But I might not do him in early espresso. I might do him in cinnamon cider. I don't know what colour bird he would be in this particular colour, but that's what he is. So I'm just going to bring him in. Just down there like that. Perfect. I just think my early espresso is a little bit juicy and would lose the cute detail. Okay, so that's the inside there, and there's the front. Now I'm going to add those rhinestones that we discussed. So just 3 little rhinestones centered around this central sentiment. I'm just going to use a large one, a medium one, and a small one. Just to highlight that sentiment and give it a bit of bling around it. There we are. Cool. So that's our second card featuring all the beautiful stamps from the Beauty of Tomorrow stamp set. So hopefully this one will come back after the mini catalogue goes, because I think it really is a highlight with that beautiful script and those beautiful sort of leafy berries as well, and that beautiful bird. I do love that bird. Anyway, okay, so that's my 2 cards that I wanted to show you today with the Beauty of Tomorrow stamp set and the Blackberry Beauty collection. As I say, I'll put all the links to all the products if you've seen anything you like. They're all current products that I've used on that lot, so all the links will be to my store where you can buy them. Now remember, if you do purchase products from today, make sure you use the very special host code, because at the end of the month, once give everyone a chance to order over the rest of September. But at the end of September, when I close that workshop off, I'll be drawing some prize. The rewards will go to a lucky participant in this week's party. So yes, use the host code, place your order, and you could win even more from this wonderful catalogue. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed those. I will see you all again at the top of the next hour, and yeah, so thanks for joining. Okay, bye.